Arijan works across several digital products within InfoStud, Serbia's leading platform for jobs and career development, and part of the Inspira Group, our official conference sponsor. He focuses on building products that go beyond feature delivery to solve real, validated user and business problems. He will talk about Smart Sort, building features that matter. Please welcome on stage Arijan Babickovic.
Hello, can you guys hear? Oh, damn it, it's loud. Can you guys hear me? Yeah, awesome. Hi. Okay, so my name is Arijan. As I was introduced, I'm a product manager in InfoStud. And today's topic will be slightly AI related, which I know everyone is sort of sick already of, but I will try to make it a bit more than that. I will touch on some, LLM topics, but I will try to make it a bit more substantial than that, and actually talk about Smart Sort, which is one of our features we built that is currently based on GPT. And I will talk you through how we got the idea, how we tested it, validated it, and then just released it, monetized it, and everything else. And also there are some mistakes we made along the way, so I'll talk you through all of that, basically. Okay, so let's start with the problem. So we in InfoStud, one of our tools we have is an application tracking system where, you know, everyone who applies for a job, basically that's where the applications arrive, and the number of applications can be really humongous. Actually, I mean the average is currently it's around 70-80 applications per job ad, but that average doesn't really communicate that the fact that sometimes even the number of applications can even be in 4 digits. So it goes quite high. So you can imagine how that goes. If someone gets that many applications, it's really difficult to actually evaluate them all. Some of the candidates can get lost in the noise. And even you really don't know on the onset who's a good candidate, who isn't. So you actually need to sift through most of them to actually find good candidates. So this was an issue we were very aware of. It's not a new thing, but we also knew that tackling it wouldn't really be a small task. So we sort of postponed this because we knew that it's a massive job. So then basically in early 2003, LLMs arrived, even a bit earlier, but for us, that's when we realized it. And that sort of changed this for us, because before, as I said, it would have required a lot of NLP work, a lot of pipelines, training data, and a lot of stuff to actually be able to sift through good versus bad resumes. Whereas now, with LLMs, you know, it got the whole context of the resumes and the job ads. You could get away with not having your data as structured as before. Before, structured data was really, it wasn't something you could, it was non-negotiable really. Whereas now you could actually provide it with broader context, and it would be still able to connect those two things. So we got the idea of actually trying this out in a very simple way. In early 2023, we held like some sort of a hack day for PMs only. And this was just, I think it was around May of 2023. So GPT-4 just came out, and it was a pretty big jump from 3.5 to 4. It was way more capable, also way slower and more expensive, but it allowed us to kind of see what is actually doable with these more advanced, more capable models. So on this hack day, we sort of kind of thought, what kind of user problems or problems that we have in our business can we attempt to solve with this new technology? And then one of the, I mean, there are quite a lot of ideas. I mean, there's a lot, I mean, in InfoStud as well as other businesses that are similar in Inspira Group, a lot of our business has to do with text in one shape or another shape. But so we have a lot of obviously job ads and resumes. So, you know, generation of this content, moderation of this content, all of these things were on the table. But we knew that this was sort of kind of exciting. We knew that it's going to be difficult, and we weren't sure whether it's going to work. For the other things, it's a more straightforward application of LLMs, but this is actually requires a bit of calculation and thinking. And this was actually before reasoning models. So we decided to kind of attempt the job ad matching, evaluating the match of a job ad to a resume. And this was a super rudimentary way of doing it. It wasn't, involving any API calls or anything like that. It was just literally in ChatGPT, pasting anonymized data from both sides. So both resumes and job ads, and then asking it to evaluate that match, give it a score. I don't remember how we scored it back at that time. But giving it a score and also qualitatively explain why this candidate is good or bad for the job ad itself. We really didn't expect much of it, but to be honest with you, the results were quite good. Just on a first glance, like this is not really reliable data, but just we were kind of surprised even in this initial try how well it actually did. I mean, it was very similar of what we would have been doing as a recruiter. So we were quite happy with it. Obviously, nothing happened then for a year. That's how things work in businesses. Things like these are slow. I mean, it was kind of risky. It was expensive. Trust was not there in LLMs back at that time. So it was very difficult to get the buy-in of management to even attempt something like this on production. But it stayed in our minds in a way. So this was not forgotten. It was just kind of shelved. And then a year has passed almost, and then a bit of a shift happened as well on the market, because we started getting way more applications to our job ads. It almost doubled. It went from 40 on average to, let's say, 70, 80 on average, which is, I think, 70 actually. So that sort of, and also, with that, the quality of those resumes and those applications usually falls. I mean, you rarely get both the number of applicants up and as well as their quality. So something like this would have actually come in very handy for recruiters to be able to tell apart who's actually qualified versus who's not qualified. So sort of because this sort of changed, we had to decide how we're gonna. I actually got buy-in from management to actually attempt to experiment with this and see what we can actually achieve with it. And then I promised I'm going to be fast. I'm going to deliver clear results, measurable ones, and it's not going to take forever. So at least we know whether this is worth putting time into, and resources. I was considering how to do it, because obviously you could do we do have a data science team, so we do have these resources available to us, like classical machine learning techniques to try to find matching candidates to job ads. But I decided to start from the simplest, cheapest way of doing it, which is with GPT. And but then obviously this opens up different topics. How do you measure? How are we going to measure the success of this at all? So it was pretty complex. So what I decided was to try to tie the results of the match that GPT does to actual real hiring outcomes that we're aware of. The best and easiest way for us to do that was to use our own job ads, or our own our own job ads, and then resumes that applied, obviously anonymized and everything. So because in this way I knew that there's not going to be any bias in the system. We did a test before this. I think it was maybe a year or two before that. GPT-3 was the state-of-the-art model, but the way we evaluated whether it can predict real outcomes when it comes to hiring processes was, in my opinion, pretty biased, because we told the people who are evaluating those resumes that they are participating in a test. So obviously and this is actually something I tried to beat, and that's why I wrote it down there. It's called the Hawthorne effect. When people know that they're participating in some sort of test, they try to beat the system. They behave differently than they would otherwise. So I was thinking how to eliminate this in this instance, and that's why I picked already finished, done and dusted hiring processes that I can compare the scores to. So I provided the resume and the job ad to the LLM, and I asked it to provide me a match score. Now, again, this wasn't as simple as it looks here because there's so many options here. I mean, you can do percentages, 1 to 3, 1 to 5 scores. Is it good? Is it bad? What types of job ads and positions is this going to be good? Is it only for like highly qualified jobs versus, let's say, someone who works in a store? It's not the same. So there's quite a lot of moving parts. So here I focused on more on highly skilled jobs. And I asked it to provide a score. I sort of determined that 1 to 10 is the range that it worked best on because it didn't have too much space to come up with stuff. 1 to 100, it was kind of arbitrary between 80 and 90 what it gave, but with a bit narrower scope, I found that comparing that to, let's say, 1 to 3 or 1 to 5, it performed the best. So I decided to stick with 1 to 10 for this experiment. And also match summary. Also, there's like the dimensions you want to compare them to. Is it skills, experience, industry experience? There's quite a lot of options here. I started with comparing or evaluating the quality of the candidate based on his skills and how well they match the job ad, and his experience as well as his industry experience. But then I realized this industry experience thing, sometimes it applies, sometimes it doesn't. And just to simplify the experiment a little bit in this stage, I stuck with just simple experience, so years of experience, as well as the skills that it has or the candidate has or doesn't have. So basically what it provided me was for each of the matches, I knew the score, and I knew how well it or what are the good and bad sides of the candidate when it comes to him matching to the job ad. And actually the results were quite good. I tried to measure them in two different ways. One of them was the average score of the people who didn't pass to the next stages. It was kind of agnostic as to how far the candidate actually got. And you can clearly see that there was a pretty big difference in the scores of the people who didn't pass versus who passed. And to be honest with you, with this type of product, it's very difficult to go further than this, because as soon as the participant is called to an interview, there's a whole a lot of new variables that are introduced in the system, which GPT just cannot predict based on the resume only. So, you know, whether it's a cultural fit, personality, a lot of other things as well. So this is just something that I think this is the best predictor of its value and what shows the value. But I did also a different calculation where I tried to see how the score correlates to how far someone got actually in the hiring process. And actually the correlation, when you calculate, it's around 0.6 between the score that the candidate gets through GPT and how far someone gets. It's actually very similar. I think it's 0.59 on the right side and 0.6 on the left side. And that's on a scale of from -1 to 1. So that is not a bad correlation. It's not perfect, obviously, because selection is not really an exact science. You can't fully predict it. And also, even if you do it, even between other different people that do selections, the correlation is it actually ranges between like 0.3 and 0.6. So we're up there with it. And, you know, in a way, quite a lot of bias has been eliminated through this process. So 0.6 was a result that we were quite happy with. And we counted this as proving, having predictive value on a smaller scale, obviously. So we proved the value for the users. We knew that it has predictive power. We knew that we're going to save a lot of time on directing the attention of the people doing the recruitment, right? They're going to know who is good, who's not, and where to actually spend those hours and which candidates to focus on first, at least. And then the last thing, obviously, even the summaries were awesome for them because they could just glance at an overview of how well the candidate matches their job ad, right? Now the question is, how did we communicate this value to the customer? So this is how list of the candidate looked before Smart Sort. So this is how they usually saw their candidates when they applied for the job. And then this was after they had Smart Sort, which is the name of the feature, activated. So as you can see, not much have changed, really. I mean, you can only see we added that toggle up there that is going to sort the people based on their match score, but you can't see the match score or anything like that right here. Even though right here, even though it's not on, we already have all the information about the candidates. We know how well they match. We have the scores. We know who would be the best fit for you, but we just don't display that anywhere here at this stage. When you switch it on, not much happens again. The order of the people changed, but it's not really too visible. I'll rewind actually so you can see it again. Pretty anticlimactic actually. But yeah, that's how it is. So clearly here you can see the issues with it. I mean, there is value. We know there is. We know that it does predict. It can point them into the right candidates for them. We just don't communicate that well enough. Even the name Smart Sort, I was a bit against that name because I think it reduces the value of the feature itself to just a sorting feature. And in my opinion, sorting is just the consequence of having those scores. It's not the whole feature. It's just the consequence that you get. So yeah, as I said, from this list, you're completely unaware of how many good candidates you have versus bad. You don't know whether out of 100 candidates, whether 10 are good and 90 are bad, or is it the other way around? You don't know where they start. So you and you never know when to stop looking, right? You still need to kind of go through all of them to figure this out. Now again, and then what started kind of being annoying to me was that we kept hearing from users. We released this as a free feature at this point. This whole process of kind of validating and getting to the scores was maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks, so it was a very fast process. And partially what allowed me to be that fast was that we had our data science team built us a tool that could chain request OpenAI and do hundreds of requests in a minute. By uploading a CSV of all the anonymized data, putting in a prompt, and sending all of that data through that one prompt. So it was most of the time around 100+ instances of resumes that I matched to a certain job ad. So it allowed me to get results pretty quickly. Then later I just needed to analyze it. So pretty quickly, I think the biggest part of the biggest job here was actually designing the experiment. So it's sort of I eliminate the bias and I actually be able to measure the predictive value. So it was really fast. And then after we launched it for free as a trial or just to see how they would react and so we could gather some feedback. One thing that really stuck in my mind that I kept hearing was match summaries are way more useful than sorting. And the question here is that really the case? I mean, it's possible, obviously, we don't know, but is that just the consequence of the value not surfacing and the look and feel of the product not communicating that value well enough? And this can be pretty dangerous because this type of feedback can then derail the further development of the feature. Very easily, you could come to the conclusion that, okay, so if they like the match summaries, then we're going to focus on that way more, and then we're going to just eliminate the sorting part because that's not, clearly they don't really like that. So this type of feedback is really quite important. And another consequence of that value not really surfacing was on pricing. Because we did some pricing research before we monetized it. We did a Van Westendorp price study. I don't know if probably many of you are aware of what that is, but that is when you ask users of about how they perceive the value of this monetarily. I mean, how they perceive the value of a feature. and we ask them what is the price that would be so low that they would doubt the quality of the product. So that's one. We asked them 4 questions. This was the first one. What is the lowest price that they would start doubting the quality of the feature? The second one is, what is the price where they would consider the feature or the product in this case being a bargain, so fairly cheap? The third question is what is the price where they would consider the product to be expensive, but they would still purchase it? And then the last question is, what is a price where they would consider it to be too expensive to purchase? Then you plot this data, and then you basically get you plot the data, and then you get an optimal price point that you should use. But the issue with Van Westendorp is that it measures perceived value, right? So if we're not that good at communicating that value, it doesn't measure the actual potential of it. It just measures the perceived value. So if you didn't communicate the value well enough through the UI, then this is going to skew downwards, and then again you can come to underpricing your. You're actually not underpricing the product, you're just pricing it based on the current value that it has. But if you undervalue it, then you're underpricing it compared to its potential. Then obviously, yeah, we set the price, in my opinion, quite low. Another thing that I think with this type of product, flat prices are something that we're comfortable with. We usually stick to them, but the value of this type of product really severely varies based on how many applicants you have. It's not, if someone gets 50 applicants, it's not as valuable as someone getting 1,000. 50 applicants anyone can go through, but 1,000 is way more difficult, and we are just charging a flat sum, so they pay exactly the same. So the thing is that even monetizing these types of new things is quite difficult for us. So how it is doing right now, we launched it, we commercialized it around I think mid-May or June, and currently we're selling around 50 of them a month. So we don't consider this to be a finished product. We just consider this to, that we achieved product market fit. Definitely we proved that companies are willing to invest in intelligence in their hiring processes. But there's quite a lot of work still to be done. The revenue from it was 700K. And again, coming back to the stuff that I spoke about in prices, this could have been way bigger. First of all, if we just started sooner, we were a bit braver initially. And then the second thing is, if we priced it maybe a bit more appropriately, then there's quite a lot of space here for this to go up. But we have a 25% rebuy rate, which, if you consider that it is something you buy with job ads, is actually not that bad. Quite a short period of time has passed. People don't post job ads that often. So it's sort of difficult to evaluate it at this short range of a time. But taking that into consideration, we're pretty satisfied with a 25% rebuy rate. Now, our goal is for this is actually to have, currently it's around 1% of the paid posted job ads have this purchased with it. And we want to get that percentage higher. But then again, the question is, you don't really want everyone to purchase this, right? If someone barely gets any applications, you don't want them to purchase it. So we need to be smart on who we recommend this to and push this to. Another thing is, again, it's more suitable as it is right now. It's more suitable for high-skilled jobs. And then another thing with this is everything that relies on GPT in the back is a sort of a black box. You don't really know why it gives the score it gives. You can ask it for, we try to ask it always, it's built into the product to ask for explanations and reasoning. And so far we don't have issues with that at all, but who knows what legislation brings in the future. We might be obligated to actually explain those results. What that will entail, we're not entirely sure. So we are definitely researching on changing this for some sort of more reliable, more predictable way of actually scoring the match. And another thing is, even though it's not even though this is not expensive and the margins are pretty high on this, it's not expensive when you do it based on just one ad and people who apply to it. But once you start going out of that and you want to recommend people from outside of the people that applied for it. I mean, the pool of people goes up really, really quickly, and then you have to, the price goes up really quickly as well. So definitely this needs to be scaled up and figured out. We obviously have some ideas and we're working on that, but as a beginning, just achieving product market fit, we're pretty happy with it, especially because this was the first feature we monetized within our application tracking system and took to market. So it was a pretty big a milestone for us, and that's about it. So I'm just gonna get over quickly of what we covered today. I'm not gonna hang on to this too long. So first, what we did here, which was a really good thing, was that we validated with real outcomes. We didn't really go with our gut feeling, even though I had it. I mean, I really thought that this is going to work, but I knew that I need to provide like proper evidence that this actually works and predicts how someone is going to perform on their job ad. The second thing is, don't hide the magic. If you have a feature that is cool, then just show it. And the third thing is that product design shapes feedback, which shapes the decisions. In our case, that was like pricing, and also the feedback about the summaries being more useful. And then also that execution matters as much as the technology. In the end, it doesn't matter how cool the tech is behind it. If you're not able to surface the feature in a very evident way of it showing its value, then you're going to have trouble down the line for sure. And that's about it. Does anyone have any questions? There, yeah.
What was the hardest part through the entire journey from your idea and then to
convincing them to give me time to try it out, I would say. I mean, most of the time, I feel like you as a product manager very often are down in the trenches and you actually feel what the users need, but then convincing, this is something we work on quite a lot recently, and things have changed, but having the autonomy to make these decisions, I think someone actually mentioned that before, that is a whole different story. So for me, that was definitely to get the time and convincing them to actually try this out and see what it can do. Yeah.
I have to say, a great presentation.
Thank you.
I love the outcome-focused validation process that you presented. I'm wondering whether the hiring decision as the outcome per se is something that you will be using in the future to validate the quality of the score, or perhaps even the post-hiring employee journey, whether they stick with the company.
That's a good question, but as I said, because this is based solely on the resume, it's super difficult. In my opinion, it's very difficult. Once you introduce these other factors, like how the person is personality-wise, how the culture fit is, it's not something. Bear in mind that this only reflects how well the resume matches the job ad. It's super difficult to go further than that. Yep.
Yeah, probably you'll get in a problem where most of the job ads are written by ChatGPT and resumes are written by ChatGPT, so they will be matching each other.
True. I mean, that's an issue we're going to have, having this or not having this feature. Who knows, in the future, maybe there's going to be some slick way of detecting AI content that is more reliable than it is now. There is some now, but it's not too reliable. Yeah, sure. Sorry.
Thanks. I had a question. First of all, great presentation. You did it really nicely and showed the case extensively. So do you have a metric how much you decreased the time hiring managers spend reviewing resumes, because you mentioned it was the issue in the first place?
That's a good question. No, we don't have the metric of that, and that would be a very useful thing to know. It's a bit more difficult to get that information compared to now, but we do not have that right now, no.
And just one follow-up question.
Yeah.
Okay, you sort it. I didn't get really why you don't display the score. And the second thing is, do you actually narrow it down, or you just sort all of the resumes that came in?
Yeah, so here I didn't actually show. We did some adjustments, obviously. I mean, I saw how it was initially. Actually, it's good for me to address that because we did fix it later on. We do categorize them now into a good fit, medium fit, and I'm not entirely sure of the semantics here, but a medium fit and then a bad fit for the job ad. So we do change that, right? So right now they're able to see who is a good, medium, and bad fit. And the other thing you asked about the score, that is a very good question. I'm very vocal about changing that, so we actually display the score. One of the reasons we're sort of scared is because of that black box moment that I just mentioned. It's not really, I mean, it's not really, if we repeat the whole scoring thing, it's quite probable that the scores would not be exactly the same. It's certain that they would not be exactly the same. Even though that use case doesn't really happen, so I don't personally see it as big of a problem, but we still are gathering our bravery here and trying to do that. But in my opinion, that would be a good call for sure.
So if it makes good margins, you can invest in training a real ML model and have more confident score.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much, guys.